See what I got going on over there? Yeah. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Had a box from B&H show up as I was doing that video over there. And what's inside the box? Well, I'm definitely going to tell you. But first, I have to say the reason for the contents of this box, it's 3 people's fault. Not one of them is me. One of them is B&H, one of them is Nikon, and one of them is KEH. None of which are sponsors for the channel. How's it B&H's fault? Well, they had a really good deal on it. Hopefully, I'm banking a little bit that it's in better condition than what it was labeled at, but good deal nonetheless. It's Nikon's fault because they've kept me waiting for the 35-1.2 for way too long. And I kind of really need a 35 right now. KEH's fault because okay, that's kind of my fault. They got me on a Black Friday deal at 10% off, but you have to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss that video when it's coming out very soon. Trying a new setup here. We're actually trying this on the Z6 III in NRAW. All right, so I've got 2 boxes. Of course, they're not original boxes, even though I like original boxes. I got a closet full of them. But now I just have to keep these generic ones because I always keep my boxes. Now that I got these out, a word from the sponsors. Me, I'm my own sponsor today. Go over to zwadephoto.com/digital products and pick up the presets. That's the best way to help out the channel. So the first item we have is an FTZ2. Hint, hint, you probably already guessed it because of my complaints with Nikon earlier. But nonetheless, we have the Nikkor 35mm f1.4G, and this is in rough shape. This is by far the worst condition lens I've ever owned, because generally I get stuff that's in better used condition than this, like cosmetically. Not that cosmetics really affect anything as far as, you know, optical quality goes, but this thing is fucked up. In fact, I have concerns whether it'll even work. There's a big gouge out of the front right here, and like somebody probably dropped it. The focus ring feels incredibly well used. The rear element looks basically brand new, but there is a pretty gnarly scratch in the coating of the front element. The manual and auto switch has some play to it because it's definitely been cycled a lot, but it still clicks. But does it actually function? Well, I gotta grab a camera and find out. All right, so we got it loaded up on the Z8. Let's see if it will autofocus. The manual focus does work, and the fact that it's really worn in actually kind of makes it nice. And this is legit focus too, so this isn't like focus by wire. When you turn this, it actually does focus it. Seems to be focusing. From what I can tell, at greater distances, it seems to have a bit of a hard time. I had to do a little pull off the back button and repress, and then it kind of locked into things that are all the way down the hallway. It seems to be working. Why did I get it at all? Well, again, I'm tired of waiting on the 35mm f1.2, and I kind of really need a 35mm pretty darn soon. I'm a little bit worried about the 35mm f1.2, and I decided I'm not going to buy it right off the bat. And the reason is I'm not a big fan of the 35-1.8s, and I wasn't super impressed with the 35mm f1.4, and so I feel like Nikon's kind of in a weird spot with 35mm right now, and it makes me not want to jump at the 35mm f1.2 without actually watching what the feedback is on it after people start using it. So I need something to get me by for even longer than I anticipated, and I didn't even anticipate on waiting this long. Nikon, get your stuff together. Another reason why is because I have something coming from KEH. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And when that gets here, I'm gonna want to use this. I may actually never get rid of this. It depends on how much I like it. But being 1.4, you know, my thing whenever I need to kind of get away from everybody and not do portraits is a shallow depth of field photography. I've got it all over my walls in my apartment. And I want to be able to do that with this new camera. Again, you don't want to miss that. I got a really good deal on that camera. So that's some of the reasons why. Anyway, what can we say about this lens? Well, it's very heavy. And this is actually not the lens that I wanted. I would really have liked to have had the Tamron 35mm f1.4. While I never owned either of those, I looked into both this lens and the Tamron heavily. I actually feel like the Tamron is like a better lens. That's based on like consumer feedback and looking at pages and pages and pages worth of sample images. I think the Tamron is just this much better. However, adapted, I had a huge problem with Tamrons. When I first switched to mirrorless, I had several Tamrons and none of them worked very well whenever they were adapted to the mirrorless cameras. Now, everybody's response on adapting Nikon-made f-mount lenses to their mirrorless, they say it's seamless. If anything, they even work a little bit better than they did on f-mount. I don't have that option with the camera that's on the way because it's not mirrorless. So this will be native for it, but I wouldn't dare buy something just for that camera that I can't also use on my mirrorless cameras. So there you have it. It's really heavy. I know from lots and lots of research that this lens has incredible color saturation, wicked sharpness, great close focusing, and I know that this is gonna work fantastically as long as it can live. Initial impressions, it really just kind of looks like it's in bad shape. Cosmetically, even the gold ring is all wonky. Wow. But I suppose I should probably take some test shots. I kind of said that like I'm disappointed. I'm absolutely not. I'm excited. All right, so I got these in Lightroom, and I'm going to treat this, even though I own this, this isn't something I've borrowed to review. I'm going to treat it with the same level of scrutiny that I do everything else. I took this on camera while we were testing out to see if it even worked. And let's see. It's really, really sharp. And that's at like almost minimum focus. That is really, really sharp. Good contrast too. Nice. That's a good start. It's really, really sharp. Got a little fringing. Pinky in the frame's looking real cool. Gravedigger always looks cool. It's a little dark. BW Grit and Gravy is a little better, I think, on this. I did Blue Mood Portrait and just kind of brightened it up a little bit. Looks pretty sweet. All right, I'm getting lost. Let's go. Let's keep going. We gotta review this lens. We do have some fringing that you don't see a whole lot in Z glass, but you know. This is for my subscriber Roy Bixby. I know he's been missing shots of leaves. Love the background on this. Lots of contrast in this lens. It is a contrasty mama. Really cool backgrounds. It's really sharp at minimum focus. So generally, when you get at minimum focus, you want to back up a little bit. Look at that. It's a perfect S. But when you get in at the minimum focus, you want to back up a little bit. Otherwise, it will be a little bit soft. But this is really sharp at minimum focus. I was trying to shoot everything as close to minimum focus as I possibly could, like holding it away from my face in some cases. You know, just testing out IBIS and stuff like that with adapted lenses, because I don't know. And of course, if you've seen the channel before, this is just so sharp and so detailed and so much contrast. I've already decided this lens is really awesome. This is like so much better than the 35mm f1.8s for the Z mount. It's way, way better as far as just the way that it looks. This has a beautiful look to it because of just the mixture of the contrast and the detail and the micro contrast. Speaking of which, let's try this black and white. And there are a ton of ranges of tones. So this lens so far has just about everything that you could want. I think this formula just works better in like a beautiful sense than the 35mm f1.8s, which I find to be overpriced. I think the 35mm 1.8s for the Z mount, I think it's sharper, but I say that kind of like a question because I'm not sure that it is sharper, but this lens is definitely like more beautiful. Whoa, Gravedigger is just out of control. It's awesome. My other favorite black and white is BW Grit and Gravy. I've actually kind of been liking this one a little more lately. This lens kicks ass. Whoa, I underexposed that one pretty well. Doing this to check saturation. Red saturation is really good. Yellow saturation is really good. Blue saturation is really good. This kind of reminds me of the 20mm f1.8s in Z mount. Green saturation is really good. We do have vignetting on this lens, which I always add vignetting anyway, but for the people that want an absolutely perfect lens with zero vignetting and zero any other problems, I'll take a little vignetting over compromises in sharpness and color saturation and contrast, because there is no perfect lens. This is in matrix metering. I hate matrix metering. It's never correct to my eye. I switched to spot metering sometime after this. Here we go. See, look at the canvas that we get, and just so little of it is in focus, and that's what I like. The shallow depth of field, like I understand only a little bit of it is sharp, And so you would think you would want less things in the background, like less of a scene, but I kind of like this, like it feels wrong. And I like doing things wrong because I already know how to do them right. Oh, look at this background. This is such an artistic lens. Oh, it's so cool. And like it's just meaningless. Like who wants this much in focus? Me, I do. Look at the whole scene. Orange Deep is kind of awesome. I like that. It looks like you're just waking up. And that's the first thing you see. Kind of biffed up the exposure on that one too. I was doing this ground level with the flip down screen on the Nikon Z8. Oh, this lens is a lot of fun. Okay, we're about to see a progression of me trying to get some bokeh for everyone to see. I'm not getting it. We got trees back here, and I'm just kind of playing around trying to get some. There we go. Yeah, we're getting there. Very pretty background. It's bubbly. There we go. That's stepping away a little bit. It kind of turns into that. That's just kind of creaminess. Little bit of bokeh balls going on right there. There's not a whole lot of leaves left for me to turn into bokeh balls, but at the very least, we're getting a good sense of what the background looks like. And our final little test image. Oh, it's so detailed. Some absolutely monstrous fringing though. This is like the worst of the worst kind of scenario. Bright sky, f1.4. Yeah, it takes some work to get rid of it, but that's okay. I honestly feel like this might be worth getting and adapting if you're unhappy with the current Z-mount 35mm lenses. I do feel like that this is better. I think Nikon kind of nailed this lens. If they take this formula and put it into the 35mm f1.2 with a little bit of correction for that kind of wild fringing we're getting at f1.4, I'm going to be very, very happy, even if it focuses as kind of slow as this lens does, because it is kind of slow. I'll be happy with that because this is quite beautiful. Well, there you have it. For the first time in a very long time, it's not YouTube that is making me get things that I don't particularly want but kind of need, but actual photography that is making me need things and therefore I have to get things. I like the minimum focus distance of this lens with the fact that it's a 35mm. What it does is it creates a big kind of canvas for this very little point of focus, which is the point. That is the point of shallow depth of field. I'm used to using like 50 or something over 100, and I kind of like the wider scene being absolutely blown out. Kind of feels like I'm doing photography wrong. I've said like a billion times, learn the rules and then break them, and that's like totally my style. I'm Z Wade, the Z Wade, and Z Wade Photo. Stay sharp, YouTube.